The Bigfin squid. Deep-sea squids are the ocean's most sophisticated legacy systems, perfectly optimized for a world that would flatline any surface-level predator. Between biological submarines with Cretaceous plumbing and deep-sea glitches featuring human-like lips and teeth, the abyss is a masterclass in terrifyingly efficient hardware. If you still think nature is about grace and beauty, you're clearly playing the trial version. Hovering nearly 6,000 meters down in the Hadal zone, the Magna Pina looks less like a predator and more like a high-end surveillance platform. While standard squids are built for speed, this 7-meter specialist is a drifting sensor array, featuring spindly arms that bend at sharp 90-degree angles. This architecture is held together by elastic connective tissue hinges, allowing it to function under a crushing 600 atmospheres of pressure. There are no massive suckers or jagged hooks for combat. Instead, it trails thread-like filaments through the dark, like a spiderweb made of sentient nerves. This is passive-aggressive survival perfected. It is like a bad real estate agent standing in the hallway of a dark, overpriced apartment, waiting for you to literally walk into a contract you didn't even know existed. The ram's horn squid. Next is the spirula, a tiny specialist with a massive internal secret. While almost every other modern squid ditched their heavy shells millions of years ago, the spirula kept its hardware. It just moved it inside. If you were to X-ray this creature, you would find a perfectly coiled, multi-chambered shell made of calcium carbonate, shaped exactly like a ram's horn. This is not just a vestigial organ. It is a highly sophisticated buoyancy regulator. The shell contains up to 30 individual chambers, each connected by a siphuncle, a biological tube that allows the squid to adjust the gas-to-liquid ratio with surgical precision. It's essentially a biological submarine, with a plumbing system designed in the Cretaceous. It spends its life hovering in a permanent state of upright anxiety, head down, utilizing a proprioceptive sensory system to stay perfectly balanced. It's the deep-sea equivalent of a hoarder who refuses to throw away an old tube television because it still technically works, even if it makes the whole apartment look ridiculous. The vampire squid. The name Vampiroteuthis infernalis translates literally to the vampire squid from hell, which sounds like a creature spat out of a gothic nightmare and into the abyss. It wears a deep red velvet cloak and features a webbing of skin between its arms that looks like a Victorian funeral shroud. But this is not a modern predator. It is a legacy system. The sole survivor of an order that existed before evolution had even decided whether it wanted to produce squids or octopuses. It inhabits the oxygen minimum zone, a toxic wasteland nearly 1,000 meters down where oxygen saturation drops below 3%. Any high-performance predator entering this zone would suffer an immediate cardiac flatline. But the vampire has simply set its metabolism to permanent standby. It does not even bother to hunt. Instead, it deploys 2 retractable, thread-like filaments to harvest marine snow, which is really just a polite biological term for a falling slush of feces, dead cells, and organic debris. When threatened, it activates the pineapple posture, turning its entire cloak inside out to reveal fleshy spikes called cirri and flashing photophores equipped with actual functioning eyelids. It traded every ounce of aggression for the ability to thrive in a zone so hostile that it is basically the deep-sea version of an unpaid office intern who survives exclusively on the charred crumbs scraped out of the break-room toaster. The Cockatoo squid. The cockatoo squid is what happens when you build a biological frame out of glass and pure social anxiety. It utilizes a specialized internal chamber filled with ammonium chloride to achieve neutral buoyancy, allowing it to hover without burning a single calorie. Its body is almost entirely transparent, a design choice that makes it nearly invisible to anything without high-resolution military-grade optics. But its true genius lies in its panic response, known as the inflation protocol. When a predator gets too close, the cockatoo squid doesn't try to outrun the problem. Instead, it pulls its head and arms inside its own mantle and pumps itself full of seawater until it becomes a turgid, jagged sphere covered in sharp dermal papillae. Within seconds, it transforms from a delicate ghost into a rigid, spiked balloon that is physically impossible to swallow. It is the biological equivalent of wearing an inflatable sumo suit to a high-end cocktail party, just so nobody can get close enough to talk to you. Design glitches. The Abyss also hosts design glitches like the Promachoteuthis sulcus, featuring muscular folds that look uncomfortably like human lips and teeth, or the telescope octopus with its tubular, upward-pointing periscopes. These are the ocean's biological outliers. Reminders that the source code of the deep sea is full of dark humor and uncanny valley errors. The Joubin squid. If you want to see extreme austerity in engineering, look at Joubini-Teuthis portieri. This creature looks like it was designed during a severe resource famine. Its arms are so long and thin they resemble skeletal filaments, making up over 80% of its total body length. It doesn't waste energy swimming or chasing prey. It simply haunts the water column, drifting with its arms outstretched in a permanent circular web to catch the smallest vibrations. At these depths, maintaining muscle is an expensive luxury. So it deleted the hardware it didn't need. It has stripped away every ounce of muscle and meat to become a floating skeleton of pure instinct. It's the deep-sea equivalent of a budget airline. Bare-bone service, no comfort, minimal payload. It is the Ryanair of the Abyss, operating at maximum efficiency with a total budget of zero, proving that sometimes the best way to win the game of evolution is to simply stop spending. The Decoy squid. The Grimalditeuthis bonplandi is the ocean's original deepfake. It possesses two specialized ultra-thin tentacles that have no suckers, no hooks, and zero interest in a fair fight. Instead, the tips of these tentacles are shaped like small, independent animals, complete with thin fins that flap through internal hydraulic pressure pulses. It dangles these decoys far away from its actual body, making them dance through the dark like tiny, struggling fish to lure in predators. It is a classic catfishing operation. The moment a hunter strikes at the decoy, the actual squid, hidden safely in the shadows, closes the trap. It proves that in the abyss, if something looks like a free lunch, it is actually a limb belonging to a specialist who is about to file an involuntary tax on your life. The abyss rewards whatever survives quietly. These squids understood that long before we did. They didn't evolve to impress you, just to be here when you're gone. Stay curious.